Continuing with the Proverbs from chapter 8, verse 1. Does not wisdom cry, and understanding put forth her voice? She stands in the top of high places, by the way in the places of the paths. She cries at the gates, at the entry of the city, at the coming in at the doors. So I think this is very interesting in a sense, where wisdom shows itself forth. So first of all, it says that he or she, well, like in the previous chapter, it represented as a sister, kinswoman, and stuff like that. So let's call the wisdom she. So first of all, it says that it cries, so it shows herself forth. And understanding also puts the voice, like the if you think about, just for interest sake, putting the picture, it's like two women, and they both put forth their voice. And where do they do that? And it says like stands at the top of high places. So apparently, and I would say high places, some government, if you think about whether in business or in any organization, it's with the government. It tries to always speak to the people in leadership, in authority. That's one of the main places. That at least this is the first thing I would say. Like first is the government, and either government in the business, government in educational thing. What would be government in educational? Be dean and some kind of board in the school, whatever it is. And any boards, of like now everything is kind of ruled through boards many times. So it's usually in the board meetings. The wisdom tries to speak her voice and understanding as well. So that's the first thing. And then, by the way, in the places of the paths. So I think that this has to do with when we're walking somewhere, that we're going somewhere, and there is sort of like probably within decision making, the wisdom tries to, and understanding tries to show itself when we need make a decision or choose a path, and not to slip into the ditch of the path. This is like, by the way, hey, this is not, don't slip into the ditch. There is a sort of like a borders, communicating borders. The wisdom tries to give you the borders, try to give you the boundaries, how to operate. So I think when that's another thing. The third thing would be at the gates. She cries at the gates, at the entry of the city. So I think that it's all three, actually, the whole verse 3. She cries at the gates, at the entry of the city, at the coming in at the doors. So that indicates when we enter something new, enter into some new situation, in a new place. It doesn't mean that we enter like new location. That definitely identifies something new, but I think it's anything new, like you get a new job, so the wisdom will try to show itself forth. And it's very important to have wisdom. Okay, if you take a new position, you get new job, you get promoted, or you quit the job, or you start new company, or you go to the school, whatever the situation is, you will need wisdom, and wisdom understanding will try to show itself forth in one way or the other if you seek. And or it will show itself forth as long as you open. I think that's the thing, and that's where it shows. When you get a new position, there's always be available some wisdom and understanding around, if you're open to receive it. So I think it's important to understand where sort of the wisdom will try to show itself forth. And the thing is that if you miss at those specific times, especially at the beginning, you get new place, and if you start listening to something wrong, to some wrong counsel or something, you can get stuck really badly, actually, and then it might take a long time until you get back on track if you start wrong. So that some people say like a good beginning is halfway. Of course, it's not like a halfway, but definitely it can save you lots of time if you start correctly. So it's important to find and listen to the wisdom, especially at the beginning and throughout the whole thing until the end. But it's important also to start good. Continuing with verse 4, unto you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of men. O ye simple, understand wisdom. Any fools, be ye of an understanding heart. Hear, for I will speak to excellent things, and the opening of my lips shall be right things. So it's wisdom clearly is not apologetic. It it calls people simple. It calls them fools, but it's like, hey, you can change. Basically, be of an understanding heart. It means you can change. Don't be fools, and learn wisdom, and it will say excellent things. It will open its lips to the right, to his her lips to the right things. So it's important to um, to listen. Like it says, for my mouth shall speak truth, and wickedness is an abomination to my lips. So it's clearly also it delights in truth. Wisdom, it always delights in truth. True wisdom from God, not some kind of worldly wisdom. The worldly wisdom can be associated even with lies and deception to just increase in some kind of gain. But godly wisdom, it speaks truth. And wickedness is abomination to the lips of wisdom. So that's very interesting if you think about how much deception is in the world concerning wisdom. Like for instance, if we here in Finland, and it's quite socialistic country, and it's like I myself from originally from Lithuania, but I lived in Finland for 10 years, and been maybe a little bit traveling, 8 months in the US, but predominantly I learned lots of things that in Europe there is a lot of like very strong this kind of Marxistic socialistic ideology that actually permeates the whole culture. And one interesting aspect of it is that foolishness is almost seen like a virtue, especially among the working class. Whenever I try to share something, like the Lord was revealing to me, I was reading Proverbs, reading, trying to find wisdom and try to understand how things work and how things operate. And I was thinking, why, whenever I shared it, people seem to get scared, especially when I was in the working place. I seem that they seem to be look like, oh, this is dangerous knowledge, almost like that. They look like, oh, like they were scared. But I think that it kind of shows people's hearts that there is some wickedness in the heart, and if they would get wisdom or get understanding how things operate, they would use for selfish gains, for the selfishness, and they're afraid of knowledge and wisdom because they feel they will empower them to do what's already in their heart. I think it exposes their heart, so they don't want to do wrong things. But if they would, they feel in deep down, that if they would know those things, it will expose them to that they might do wrong, or then they would need to repent. They would need to get a change of heart. They would need to confess and repent, and that's I think very interesting. And another thing is that there is certain type of shows. For instance, in Finland, there was this Una Turhopuro, and then I remember in Lithuania, people watched some Russian shows, but it has similar characteristics. There was some kind of very thrifty, kind of smart, but a bit of a wicked, lazy character that use its like wisdom or like how to put it, wittiness to get its own way, get his own way, in order to just stay lazy or get something out of people without, like through trickery. So they use this sort of like wisdom as a trickery. So then people associate wisdom to this trickery, like that people outsmart the other in order to gain something, and it somehow this kind of like a wisdom gets bad reputation in that sense, and that's absolutely wrong. And the whole culture, the working class, many times gets hypnotized by this kind of thinking, and then actually the upper class many times, or like, I don't say, I could say like upper class, but people who, like business owners or in a government, can easily actually manipulate people. There is no clear like a growth ladder to climb. There is some people control the maybe to a certain degree society through this kind of propaganda or to this kind of shows. It's like, for instance, comedy. Everybody knows here in Finland and watches and finds it funny, but they don't understand how much damaging it's to the brain, to the mind, to watch this kind of shows, because it goes to the subconscious, into the heart, that wisdom is wrong. So they don't engage. They're like, oh, I just work my job, I don't want to know anything, I just want to do little things. They miserable inside, but they don't want to engage with learning, with knowledge, with wisdom, because it might expose certain wrong things. But rather than learning and then repenting, they many times choose to stay stuck. So I think if you find yourself that, hey, I was deceived because I was actually deceived myself. God was teaching me about certain things. He wanted me to learn about wisdom. He wanted me to learn about leadership. He wanted me to learn many things, and I was learning. But at the same time, almost felt like guilty, that because of the culture, because they despised, like, sort of, who are you to say anything, even though it might sound wise, maybe it would sound good plans, but they didn't like where it came from. They didn't like that it came from some young guy, like, who is this young guy know anything. And of course, like, I'm young and unexperienced, especially in the beginning. We all are like, when we're young, we don't know many things, but we can learn. And sometimes, wisdom doesn't come with years. Wisdom comes with learning, experience, reflecting, and growing. It comes with growing. Not everybody cash in the experiences they have. They might have many years, but not much wisdom. So it can come with years and experience, but sometimes years just go by. So it's important to engage with the right things and not to be afraid with knowledge. And even though sometimes people are younger or whatever, it's way easier to listen older person than a younger one, especially concerning something to do with wisdom. And many times it requires to humble oneself to listen somebody younger. But God can speak to anybody, like it says, He used the donkey to speak to the prophet in one of our Bible passage. So it's important to be willing to humble and listen anybody. God can speak to the children. He can speak through any means possible, and sometimes He wants us to humble ourselves to speak through most unlikely sources. So this is, I believe, the exhortation for today, and God bless you.